Hi, today's video is the first while I'm reading Winston Churchill's exhaustive account of the Second World War. The first volume of the 4-volume book is called Milestones, the Disaster. In this, he outlines the disastrous Treaty of Versailles and the interwar period, essentially. He looks at how, from his perspective in Britain, how World War II came about. One of the really interesting things that have caught my notice recently was when he talks about the Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin and how in 1932 he really downplayed the threat of Nazi Germany. And then, of course, later on, when the threat became more apparent and real, he redacted his lack of concern. He actually made a formal apology in the House of Lords about that he'd been wrong. And Churchill goes on to say how much he admired, even though they hadn't always shared the same opinion on everything. Churchill says how much he admires the fact that Baldwin was able to admit that he was wrong. He'd made a misjudgment and that the Nazi threat was very real. And I really thought about that. I told my husband about it actually, and I said, why can't politicians today do that? Because we really are in a political climate where we can't admit we're wrong. People can't admit they've made a mistake. At the moment, one of the biggest things is the sports rorts scandal with Bridget McKenzie. The government still won't admit that actually, yeah, we knew what she was doing and actually this was a part of our policy. Barnaby Joyce with his the family breakup and the illegitimate child and all that stuff. Well, illegitimate's a bit of an old-fashioned word, but Mr. Family Values, then he goes out and has a baby with another woman while he's still married. But he would never apologise for that, and now he's back in favour with the National Party. I'm sure you can all think of 20 million examples in Australian politics and around the world, where politicians just won't say sorry. They won't admit that they're wrong. They're so afraid of losing power, prestige, credibility, whatever, within their own power, within their electorate, to say sorry. How have we constructed this political climate where we aren't okay to say sorry? And is that a good thing? No, I don't think so. So I think it's important in our own lives, but also we should be asking of our political leaders to be honest. We should be asking of our political leaders that they stand up and they say, when they've made a mistake, they acknowledge it, just like Stanley Baldwin did. Oh dear, I was wrong. The Nazis are a real threat. Very sensible. And they were able to get on with their preparations for World War II. We can't do that anymore. Why not? Thanks for listening.